Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2 Review. Okay. Well, it felt a lot like a. As weird as it felt a little Star Warsy for a good bit of this.
I,
Because we.
I felt that
That's
too.
because they both have there are a lot of the Star Wars animated shows in that same art style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it
And
also, we're
it's
starting
like,
not from they're on a spaceship like every other Star Trek show there is. Like, they're on
yeah,
a starship or a space station or already someplace nice. Like, the vast majority of this first, like, two-parter, they're in the grunge of doing, like, mining and that sort
well,
of
they're
thing.
basically slaves.
Yeah,
They start out as slaves and steal the spaceship.
yeah. So
So yeah.
yeah, it very much has the problem of, like, yeah, it's, well, not problem, but it's that it starts out kind of, you know, they start out lower than a lot of Star Trek shows usually do.
Yeah.
Usually Star Trek is starting out, they already have a spaceship, they're already in space, or in
Yeah.
dock heading out to space, or you know because I mean, TOS, they're,
That's because most of them already were part of Starfleet and,
yeah, yeah,
started
that's,
out that way.
yeah, it's just got more of the grit of more of what Star Wars, like, I'm not saying, Star Trek never has
I
any grit,
mean,
but
I
like,
I'll be honest, I've never seen any of the Star Wars animated shows.
I think I might have seen one episode of the Clone Wars, or at least clips of it here and there, but I
The
haven't
only
really set.
part of that I've seen, I think it's from it, are a couple of memes of soldiers. But I'm
Yeah,
not sure if that's Star Wars or if that's a video game. I'll be honest.
yeah, I haven't really watched much of any of that, but yeah, it just has more of the grit you'd expect out of a Star Wars thing. Now, I assume as soon as they get out to space, like they have, like, then it'll turn into more of a trek.
Yeah.
Um, which, it's one of the other things is, like, there's a lot of questions, which is good for us for a first, like, two-parter to really set up. Is one of the good things you can do with that is to, set up a lot of questions, because that gives you things to
Yeah.
answer in the long term. Um, like, why the hell was a Federation starship there in the first place? 2, how long was it there? 3, where the hell is this? Because, like, didn't they have one of them's a Tellarite, I think, but there was also Kazon. So, where the hell is this? Did I miss something?
I believe it's somewhere in the Delta Quadrant. I mean, it has Kazons on the regular.
Yeah, yeah, Delta. Yeah, like, Kazons make sense if it. This is the thing. Kazons make sense if it's the Delta Quadrant. You don't have to explain anything if it's Kazons.
Mhm.
If it's in the Delta Quadrant, because that's
Plus,
where they're at. But Tellarites,
plus, you know, the whole, different races and stuff can can be in the Delta Quadrant because of that caretaker array or whatever. We saw in Voyager Klingons,
Yeah.
Borg, all sorts of
What,
shit.
uh, wasn't the Klingon thing? They were just. It was just a really long time ago they set out. That was the whole point of them. It wasn't like
Hmm.
a. It wasn't like they got hit by the caretaker. They just started sailing in the direction of a thing. It's like there, and they're just like okay, and they just started sailing in that direction, and it just sort of that's where they ended up. Um, but uh, but yeah, um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess if the caretaker ray had hit a Tellarite ship, then possibly they brought some Tellarites, and then the Tellarites had set up a colony somewhere, and so now you have Tellarites in the Delta Quadrant, or somehow the Kazons got Kazon gets sucked through somewhere. But yeah, if it is in the Delta Quadrant, then yeah, the Tellarites needs a little Tellarite in the protostar itself requires some explanation. How did an Alpha Quadrant thing end up in the Delta Quadrant? Because we know how one thing ended up over there, but wasn't the caretaker? It would have to have, like the protostar, like the Tellarite. Okay, he could have been sent there. Like Tellarites could have been sent there by the caretaker before, but the protostar has a Janeway who's you know who's advanced and who's probably post. This is definitely post Voyager because
Yeah.
she wouldn't have been chosen as a hologram for a command thing before then. She had never had Voyager was her first command, I think, or first new ship at least, and so like she didn't have that kind of clout beforehand, but she does afterwards. So it makes more sense for this to be post Voyager. So like wrong, but didn't the caretaker array shut down or was destroyed?
It was destroyed at in the
Yeah,
second episode of
yeah. So
Voyager.
Voyager, so it was destroyed. So that can't be doing anything more to bring any more in, which makes me wonder where the protostar came from.
Yeah.
Like
That answer will appear later.
yeah, oh, yeah. I assume all these questions
So.
will eventually be answered, but I'm just sort of setting up. Okay,
Oh, what the questions for future?
yeah, so we should be looking out for. Okay, well, this is weird. Like they have time to explain these questions. They're just questions I have. It's like I'm not expecting all of them to be answered in the first episode. That's kind of the point of the first episode. Like I said, to set up these questions so that as we get to them, it's like, oh, okay, that explains that, that explains that, that explains that, and that explains that. And it's like, but they haven't, but they set up a lot of weird scenarios like, okay, Tellarites, where did they come from? Where did the protostar come from? All that stuff. It's like, well, where did all that come from? And I imagine that the whole the whole point of this mining operation was to dig down and get to the protostar. That was the gem. That was what he wanted. Like the rest of it was fine.
Yeah.
That was extra stuff that was good. Like, and he said the thing he found around the protostar was amazing. Like that you could buy a ship or something.
Value.
Yeah, it was with that like a bucket of that. But like the protostar was the real gem, and that was what he was looking for. Apparently that stuff that it was surrounded in, I'm going to guess, was probably something that was masking its signature. Like he knew it was in there, but he didn't know where it was in there, so he had to keep drilling and looking. Like he knew it was this area, but the signature was masked because it was powered down and then surrounded by all the stuff. Like that may have been sensor interfering. And now he's lost that too. So
Yeah. I'm thinking it's not really the ship itself he wants. There's probably something on the ship he wants.
well, lots of Federation tech, I imagine, would be very interesting to him.
Oh yeah. Like honestly, like ships are a dime a dozen, but a ship that has phasers though.
Yeah. And we get our General Grievous for the I know he's not
Oh
quite
my god, yes.
he's not really
Yeah.
the same thing, but he's very much acts in the same way. He was just droid. He was just like that's also adds to the Star Wars feel.
Yeah.
He's purely robotic, whereas Grievous was cyborg, but so uncivilized. But yeah, and a lot of the and one of the other things that's going to be interesting is like I think like we get a brief explanation about what was it? Is a Medusa or something or other, something along those lines. I forget what it was called.
Medusan.
But
Medusan.
yeah, Medusan. Yeah, we got that.
Actually, we're from another track. I
Yeah.
think it was TOS.
Okay. Well, yeah, we got them. So we have.
Yeah.
So they've explained one species, and then they have the Tellarite, which they haven't explained how he got where he is, but we know enough about Tellarites. Tellarites aren't a surprise. Maybe where he is a bit of a surprise, but what he is not much of one. And then, though you could go more into Tellarite culture than what we got in Enterprise, but that's basically all we. It's one of the only places like DS9. We got Klingon culture. We got a lot more Klingon culture, but we got a little bit in TNG, and a tiny bit in Voyager. But Enterprise basically gave us our biggest like heavy dose of Tellarite culture. So you could explain more Tellarite culture.
They were in the original series, but not. I don't think a lot. Plus, I saw pictures of it. They're creepy looking.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew they were in TOS as well, but yeah, they culture-wise, we probably didn't get much of anything from them. Because they did, if they'd had a Tellarite crew member, they would have had more time. But the getting all the makeup on would have probably been a pain in the butt and very expensive. So they're like, we'll stick to ones that already look vaguely human. Either human or so human we just stick a couple ears on them, give them a weird haircut, and they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever the species we're with that week is the one that gets the weird makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's minor. And didn't the for lack of a better term, I guess the protagonist, the main protagonist, the guy of the first episode, the purple one, what was his name? That guy, like, they didn't even know what he was. Like, I don't even know what he didn't even know what he was, or it was one of them that didn't know what they were.
Oh, yeah. Daj, he does not know what species he is.
Yeah, like, okay, well, I mean, he's just as confused as the rest of us as to what he is, but I don't think it really matters that much for right now. Like, I'm sure it'll come up eventually, but like right now, it's not terribly important. But it's another one of those. Okay, this is a question on the pile that if they, that they'll get around to eventually. Like this is their checklist they're setting up in the first episode of this is something we're going to have to explore at some point.
It would be funny if it was like some if he's like some hybrid, which is why nobody knows what he is. Like he's actually just two common species, although I can't think of any that are purple.
The only purple ones are Kabali, I think. And even then, they're like very lightly. They're not that deep a purple.
And it's just
And they don't breed,
a
so.
hybrid of a hybrid of two species with a or something, and it just that's why nobody knows what he is, because he's from another quadrant.
Yeah. Or, let's see. Well, you need a red species, but like Andorians and some sort of red species. You got a purple. But then you'd have to explain the lack of antennae. Yeah, he just takes
Mm,
after his mother.
yeah,
You didn't get the
yeah.
antennae. Or they're small and they're buried up underneath his hair.
Yes, I've been made fun of all my life for it, so I'd rather not talk about it.
Well, they wouldn't have known about They wouldn't have had any reason to make fun of because they don't know what an Andorian is supposed to look like, probably, from the way these people are. They
Yeah.
might not know what an Andorian looks like. They may not have ever seen or heard of an Andorian. Unless a Tellarite told them about him.
Yeah, so who knows? I honestly don't know either yet.
But let's see. I mean, okay. Just going into basic review. Like we've hit a lot of the questions this episode asks that are, the show is eventually going to get around to, probably, if it lasts long enough. Like,
Yeah.
basics like animation. Good.
Yeah, it's still
It's very
surprising as good. I mean,
standard.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it's very standard Nickelodeon 3D CGI.
Yeah.
Like that's why everybody that's why it has the Star Wars feel, because it's got the same animation style as Star Wars or the 2012 TMNT or
Plus it has General Grievous.
plus General Grievous, but with only 2 arms.
Yeah, and
Wait, I admit, when he first popped up, I was tempted to say hello there.
General Kenobi, you are a bold one.
Now, what I wanted to say was, I'm firing my laser.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. It's not as weird because he's a robot, but it is. And it's interesting to see how different eras depict shields as well.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Like it's the shield on the Protostar is fairly skin tight. It's more like some of them get more bubbly. Like the Galaxy tends, I think those shields tend to be a little more bubbly, but then again, it just has a big footprint, so its shields have to cover a lot of ground to still be semi-spherical.
Yeah.
See what else is there. Characters. We haven't seen a lot of them. I mean, main character, he's kind of standard main character protagonist,
Like,
He
I thought I
yearns
was the
to,
captain.
yeah,
Yeah,
he wants to be in charge. He's, you know,
he's
he,
the Simba.
yeah, he's
He's the Simba. He's like, I'm gonna be king, even though I don't know shit of what I'm doing.
yeah, he's very much protagonist. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to be in charge, and I want to go exploring, and I'm a little bit rash in my decisions, but I'm good at improvising, so usually it works out okay. It's worked out okay so far. Um, then we've got the Tellarite, which
Junkum.
yeah, he's gonna be, he's gonna be the engineer. And given he's a Tellarite, he's gonna argue a lot, but in good
Yeah,
in good nature. It's not he's not angry or anything. Just he's
he's
gonna be.
just controversial.
Yeah, well,
He is an internet troll.
well, no, he's less internet troll and more a contrarian. Like, it's sort of that Tellarite. Like, I want to argue, so in order to argue, I have to take up an opposite position to what you have. So he's gonna be a bit of a contrarian. It's like it doesn't mean not
I
he
love
may not
the
even really
reverse
believe in what
psycho-
he's arguing, but he's gonna argue because that's what you do. You argue.
I love the reverse psychology does. I love the reverse psychology does use to get him on board.
Yeah, it's
It's like, yeah, you're right. You couldn't do it. What do you mean I couldn't do it? Sure, I can. I'm in. And Rock Talk.
Yeah,
She's
rock
so
talk.
adorable.
And not what you expected to hear out of that voice when come out of that.
Right?
Yeah, it's just
Like,
a
hey,
kid.
big guy. I'm not a guy, and I'm not that. Okay, I am big, but like, she's just this adorable little kid, and it's like she just happens to be enormous.
And really
Yeah.
durable.
Imagine what a full size adult one looks like.
Yeah, we
I
don't know
mean,
what their sexual dimorphism is, so the males might be even bigger.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you see that mountain over there? Yeah, that's my mom.
And that bigger, or the males could be smaller.
Yeah,
like
that's all. Yeah,
in
that's what I
English.
said. If the dimorphism swings that way, it would be funny if the males are smaller in her species, and so she's
They come,
actually like they're actually really small. They're
they come across this tiny, skinny creature with similar skin tone, and it's like, oh, hi, Dad. It's like, that's your dad. He's so small. How
yeah,
does
the
that work?
males are small, aren't they? In your species?
Well, I mean, some are,
And
but
Dash is
they
like,
rather
I
not.
don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe. I don't know. I'm the only one of me I've met, so. eh. I don't know if we even have females. This could be, we could be a clone species. We could be freaking Jem'Hadar for all I know. Well, not Jem'Hadar actually, but like the Jem'Hadar. It's a clone species. It's like, I don't fucking know. Though cleaned up a bit, obviously. Then the slug. Did the slug operate the weapons, or did I remember that wrong?
Yeah, I think so. That slug is so cute. It reminds me of Gassy from Alienators, Evolution Continues, which was a cartoon from the 90s, so pretty
Yeah,
obscure. It's on
yeah.
Fox Kids. Um, or Slimer.
Yeah.
He's the little Slimer.
Yeah.
That
He's
apparently even with the Universal Translator, only Rock Talk can understand him.
Well, I mean, to be honest, in Star Trek, can the Universal Translator translate something like a dog or a cat?
Yeah, but he seems more sentient than a pet.
Yeah, true.
And imagine if they could.
Oh God, no.
Just like eventually you accidentally turn your UT too high, and all of a sudden you hear like, I'm horny, I'm horny, I'm horny. It's like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's the crickets.
Yeah, it turns out they didn't properly register him with the Universal Translator. Universal Translator's still figuring him out. And he ends up being like Norm Macdonald's character on
Yes, that would be awesome. Yaphet.
Yaphet, yes, Yaphet.
He's a little Yaphet, just not as weird or pervy.
Yeah,
I don't think.
that'd be
He doesn't seem
toned
as
down
weird.
a bit, but
He's Yaphet's baby.
Let's see, and then essentially the princess.
Yeah.
We got the Medusan, which is there's not really much to say there, and she's gonna seem like a little bit wiser, but a little more sarcastic, possibly. Bit haughty maybe.
When
And then then you have the princess, and she's going to be very. Wonder if she's going to be very Zelda.
Hesitant at first, but in the end joins their side.
Yeah, she's like, you kidnapped me. I had a cushy life over there, and now I'm with a bunch of idiots. Fuck. Take me home. My daddy will not be pleased. Take me home.
My father will hear of this.
Exactly.
Go full Draco. It's a little bit Draco, but
yeah. Although she does have that
wanderlust, wants to get out there.
Like you saw, yeah. And that empathy that her father doesn't seem to have, where she's just like, because you saw with the little kitten critter.
Oh, which was so cute.
It was at that. Although, you know what that made me think of? New York. And the dude who had the kittens. What was his name? I don't remember. But in the episode, Doctor Who episode Gridlock, where they were in the cars and Doctor dropped down.
Have you seen the behind the scenes with that one? Like, apparently the kittens absolutely loved David Tennant, and he just wouldn't stop playing with them or something.
Oh my god, I can't blame him. Kittens are adorable.
Oh, you gotta go, when you get done, check YouTube for David Tennant kittens and that, and like, apparently, I forget what all it was, but there was, like, they had to get the kittens. It's like, no kittens, go over there. But, yeah. Oh, and the other thing is the how so few, like, he didn't allow them to talk to one another. The whole situation at the prison with the mining thing, of not allowing them any sort of translating device to try and, okay, if they can't talk to each other, they can't foment revolt against me.
I mean, kind of sounds like the Tower of Babel.
And so, but which makes me wonder, like, eventually they would come up with like a language, like, you put enough sentient enough beings with vocal cords and that sort of thing where they want to communicate, like somebody will teach somebody else their language enough that they can converse, or they'll come up with a sort of mixed up language that's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and try and come up with something where they can communicate, and that's what they'll use.
And also technically you don't always need like a language. Like take this for example. I have an oven partner that I work with. We rarely talk, but we have our own like little sign language that we give each other that makes us like perfectly in sync.
Yeah, and so if you're working together with somebody, you make signs enough that okay, we understand each other, and then you have some downtime possibly. You can't be even slaves can't be worked 24/7 without you become less useful, like, and I don't think he's trying to work them into death. He's just trying to work them till they gets what he wants. So even them
And
he has to give
they
some time
did
off.
have, and I mean, they did have them tethered together. So you'd have a partner that when you work together, you gotta be able to understand each other a little bit.
Yeah,
So
so
you wouldn't be like, just because you can't speak each other's language. And I've had that problem because like I've worked with people who don't speak a lot of English. Like a few only speak Farsi and a few only spoke like Spanish. So we still were able to understand each other for the most part. Of course, the fact that I get occasional aphasia where I can't remember simple words doesn't help. So I can't speak anyway sometimes. I'm like that you know, that sort of thing.
yeah, like, yeah, I
I
would
get
think
that.
a sort of sort of language would develop on its own, um that would sort of take advantage of, okay, who's there the most, okay, uh yeah, a pigeon language of sorts.
Yeah.
I was making sure I remembered that right.
Yes, it would be called it is called a pigeon
Yeah,
language, but
making sure
I'm
I didn't
just
mess that
teasing
up.
with the
But yeah, um yeah, so I mean, eventually they, like, if they were around, if this thing was going on long enough, like, the workers, even if some died or whatnot, like, over time they would teach each other a language so that they could at least work together more efficiently. And being that they're probably social creatures, given they're
bar.
humanoids, they're probably social creatures. They probably have a desire to speak to one another. And if you had more than one of anything, like you had two from the same species, well, those two can speak to each other. And let's say you got a shipment of 15 of the same species. Okay, well, now those people all speak to one another. Well, now, in order to build, if you learn their language, you can now speak to all those people. So now they start maybe one of them starts teaching their language to others, and now in their downtime, and now, oh, that guy now speaks this language too, and so now that person also speaks the language. Like, you may be trying to keep them there, but like necessity, like social creatures would try and learn at least one language, or they would sort of mishmash a language together, sort of, you know, some sort of ad hoc language that lets them communicate. Um, and then at that point, he's got to worry about a revolt, or you know, he has some system to kind of keep them from getting along. I don't know what that would be,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's got to be worried about. Yeah, initially it's going to be hard for everybody to get on the same page because of the language barrier. But if you're a social creature and you want to talk to somebody else, you'll learn the language just out of desperation for somebody to talk to. It'll be difficult because you don't have, like, you'd have to, teach them in a way that, you'd hold up rock. This is rock, rock, rock. Water, you teach them vocabulary and then, actions and all that, verbs in that session. Teach them how to conjugate it into a sentence, and it would be tricky, but you'd eventually get something working.
Or even if you're not like learning how to speak exactly, like you learn phrases or you learn small words that like you can string together to be not completely understandable, somewhat comprehensible. Like instead of saying a normal complete sentence, you say things like you don't use proper words like me this or that sort of thing like
You go
kids do.
caveman.
Yeah,
Me hungry. Me want
exactly.
meat.
Where you can understand each other at least enough to communicate.
Yeah. But the longer you do that, the more you're going to understand, and the more you understand, then the tighter those communication lanes get. And the problem with, if you try and rotate them, is you just end up teaching a lot of them, and that one starts spreading that language to these over here, and you just keep rotating a teacher out to where they end up amongst others and teaching them the sort of common language, and then everybody's speaking the same language, and the whole point of not using universal translators completely falls apart.
Yeah, but I mean, on the one hand, that would suck for him. But on the other hand, shame it doesn't work for the slaves. It hasn't worked for the slaves yet.
Yeah, I mean, he may have some other policy that kind of keeps these things, makes it difficult for them to communicate. But and it may also be that it hasn't been around long enough for that sort of culture to really develop. Because we don't know how long they've been searching in this place. We don't know how long slaves last in this place. Like, is he burning through them in, like, do most of them, like, the only reason, like, these ones haven't died yet is because they're relatively fresh comparatively, and if most of them don't last more than a few years.
Also, I don't really think their dental's that good either, or like have any medical insurance.
Yeah, I don't think they have any kind of treatment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is a certain amount of, like, they might have bare bones sort of treatment, maybe just in the same way you'd fix a machine. Like, if it would be more expensive to replace them than to treat them, like they'd go ahead and treat them. But if it would be more expensive to treat them than to just put them out of their misery, like, that seems like that cold kind of reasoning that he would employ in this sort of place. Like, yeah, you get hurt. If it's more expensive to heal you than to replace you, I'll just replace you.
Yeah.
You are a machine as far as I'm concerned. And if repairing you costs more than replacing you, I'm just going to replace you, and I'll just have you scrapped off.
Well, I mean, not all of them are machines. I'm pretty sure that the bad guys all think that Dodge is kind of a tool.
Well, I mean, no, yeah, I'm not.
That was a joke.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of unanswered questions that I think we're about to get next time. Like, we're gonna get a few of them answered next time. They'll probably drag out a few more. Like, Dodge's species will be dragged out, and that'll be something we don't learn for a while, I would imagine. That seems like one of those long-term questions. Like, he gets a little clue here and a little clue there, and it's something that you figure out over the course of the
Mhm.
series, or maybe
Maybe
halfway through the
like
run.
maybe he's like Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy. His dad is actually a planet.
Or he can actually, he's another species that can change their color, but he hasn't realized he can do it yet, so he's been stuck on purple his whole life.
Oh god. It's like, wait.
He figures it out and starts cycling through the colors, and it's like, yeah.
Nope. Ooh, I like this one. Nope. Okay, I go with this one.
Like, why are you
when he
purple,
comes
son?
when he when he reaches maturation, he becomes like a chameleon and his mood changes his color. And all of a sudden he's like he's with Gwen and suddenly he starts turning like pink or red or something, and it's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
The thought of like reptilian sort of, that sort of thing, like it gave me the idea of like, oh, what are they, anoles, or they have the dewlap or what under their throat. Those lizards that have the big red sack under their throat at maturity, they just, and it turns out he's got one of those, but like it doesn't activate until maturity. So he just starts, at some point he just,
whenever he whenever he gets the hiccups, or at one point when he goes through like some sort of weird alien puberty and he suddenly starts hiccuping and this weird sack just explodes out of his throat, like, and starts going, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I just have the hiccups.
well, that's different. But yeah, there's because we don't know anything about him. We don't know, like, you could say anything about him and it would, possibly, we don't have enough information. Yeah, I think we've raked over this first and second episode pretty pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to go on further until we get more episodes behind us, but it does set up a lot of questions. It does sort of give it a gritty start, but I think it's going to sort of clean off as they get out in space. I mean, we'll probably see these guys again, some of these guys again, as they chase after them, because that was the whole point of this thing. But I think it'll be way on down the line, and it'll be down the line a little bit. Maybe next episode, maybe. But I think they'll get far enough away from it that they'll have to start looking for them. When they start looking for them, like, that'll take a few episodes at least before they see them again. And they'll slip past them again in some way, shape, or form, and that'll be an episode down the line.
Yeah.
He'll think he's rescuing his daughter, but he's actually not, because she wants to stay. So they may need time to build up that she wants to actually stay on the protostar, and so, like, she's gonna need to,
like, I've come to rescue you, my darling daughter. It's like,
Yeah. But
no, it's okay now. I'm in love with Dodge. I can stay now.
somehow,
Like, no.
I don't know why, but somehow I doubt he has any interest in saving his daughter. Like, I don't really think he cares about her. He just wants the ship.
well,
Yeah.
but that's what he'll, that's how he'll talk to her about it. It's like, betray them so that we know where you are. We can find you. We can save you from this. You know, while I also get a hold of the protostar. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, you say the quiet part quiet and the loud part loud.
Hmm. And then when they finally get and when he finally gets to her, it's like, I thought you came to rescue me. I thought you said they're your friends now. I'll take the ship though.
But so any final thoughts on Prodigy episodes 1 and 2 of season 1, assuming there's a
I got
season
it.
2?
Nope.
I got nothing.
All right.